want more out of your love, sex, romance, everything, you're curiouser. So am I. In this live, I'm sharing my thoughts on life, love, passion, and creating something that is far better than I ever could have dreamed. Welcome to Curiouser. Good morning, good morning, good morning. So, fun story. My partner was out a little late last night, and I was getting ready for this. And he walks into the bathroom and he's like, "Oh, you are too bright this morning." I said, "There's no such thing." So, hello. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I'm Heather, also known as Nookie. I live an amazing personal life full of love, sex, passion, adventure, exploration, and I like to share this with people because I believe that everyone deserves a life greater than they ever could have dreamed of. So I write books, I teach workshops, I offer coaching, and I go live like this on the topics of better love, sex, romance, and kink for people of all genders, relationship statuses, orientations, and more. Hi, Cobalt. Lovely to see you. Fact of the matter is, dating, looking for love, trying to connect can suck. It's just a fact, especially when you're not drop dead gorgeous. Am I right? Yeah. However, there are other options, better options that I'm going to be sharing with you in this live that you can use to your advantage to connect with others for love, friendship, companionship, discussion, debate, whatever. Also, I know it's early and I know that it's going to be a sparse crowd this morning, but don't forget to comment or ask your questions in the chat. I do love engaging and I keep an eye on the scroll at all times. So today's topic is inspired by a comment on one of my writings from a long time ago, maybe almost a decade. I ran across it a few weeks ago as I was doing something or another. And I realized that this was a topic that I really wanted to talk about because it's something I'm pretty passionate about discussing. Someone said on that comment, "Great read that I think a lot of people need to see. Makes me wish we could see souls and intentions more so than physical cosmetic attributes." And I replied, "Good morning, Ava. I seem to remember a book or story long ago about a place where people looked on the outside how they thought on the inside. It was like some sort of sorcerer's spell, maybe, or something. I don't really remember. And it led to most people, like the vast majority of people, becoming incandescently beautiful because they were so positively rewarded for changing their thoughts. And beauty became commonplace, right? A few people, however, were ugly. And that became an attraction because that was rare and interesting. And it sort of spread like a malignant disease, catching and growing. They were still a minimum, thankfully. And eventually this spell, I guess kind of like AI, altered itself or was altered to not just show beauty, but interest and personality characteristics. So people were unique and interesting as well as beautiful. And that created a more positive cycle after all that led to the, happily ever after whatever. And I'm not sure if it actually was a book or a story, or if it was like a dream I had or some musings or something. In any case, it stuck with me, and I've never been able to find it again. So it may be a product of my imagination. However, whatever it was, like I said, it stuck with me, and it constantly reminds me that imperfections are good, and being interesting is far more important than simply being beautiful. And that is what we'll dive into today. And it's something that I want people to acknowledge. Like, you don't have to agree with me that interesting is necessarily better than beautiful. I hope that I can get you to see the perspective of the idea that interesting is at least on par with being beautiful, or at least get you to think about things, because that's really what I would like. Is I'd like people to take some time and think about the things we believe instead of just believing them, I guess. Don't believe everything you think. And please, don't forget to like this video and share it wherever you find me. It is a huge help for me to have people recommend me to their friends, family, groups, pages online, whatever. Again, another shout out to Cobalt. Thanks so much for sharing me on Reddit. I really do appreciate that. Hello, that guy over there. Good morning. So let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of being beautiful, because again, a lot of people just assume that being beautiful is good, is the best thing in some cases. And I think that it's ideal to understand that being beautiful is not everything, right? Like, if you are naturally beautiful in the traditional sense, you may need to spend, well, let's see, not may need, you may spend less time and money on looking a particular way because you're beautiful. So you're freeing up resources for other aspects of your life, right? So maybe if you're beautiful and you know you are beautiful, then you realize that maybe you don't need to put as much effort into looking beautiful, right? On the other hand, though, there are beautiful people who feel trapped into that role of looking good and work even harder to maintain that beauty standard than someone who never really considered being beautiful a factor in their happiness. We see this a lot. For example, there was some comments. We hosted a little get together for the Oscars the other night. And although I went to bed on time for me, early for others, and I did get to see the red carpet. And there was definitely some chit chat about people who had gotten too much plastic surgery. Beautiful people attempting to stay beautiful through all of life's changes, right? So there's perhaps an insecurity built into setting the bar or your personal standard much higher. A beautiful person is likely to get more casual and overt attention, which obviously can be a benefit, right? More attention equals more possibilities and more options. However, it can also be a negative when it comes to the sorts of attention they might get and the assumptions that the people giving that attention or the people envious of that attention might make about them. I do love tea, I'll tell you that. Because very attractive people are often rated as less intelligent and less capable than others uh, whose looks trend a bit closer to the norm or the mean, regardless of the actual facts of their ability. There's this, theory out there that somebody who is blessed with beauty must, according to the universal law of fair and balance, which, by the way, does not exist. If somebody is beautiful, then they must be lacking in other areas, right? So, regardless of the actual facts or their ability, people who are above the norm in looks tend to be perceived as less intelligent and capable. Whereas gorgeous folks are actually perceived also as being happier, healthier, and more successful, which is interesting. We judge them as less intelligent and capable, but also happier, healthier, and more successful. Hello, Sabyasachi. Cobalt, I am drinking a honey ginseng green tea today. So, happier, healthier, and more successful just because they look a particular way can be a drawback when those beautiful people are struggling just like everyone else, right? And their issues, including like medical issues, are overlooked because they're not obvious, right? And more well-meaning and trustworthy, the news anchor effect. Yeah, absolutely. And part of that is because we keep presenting beautiful people as well-meaning and trustworthy. It's a vicious cycle, right? People tend to be drawn naturally to beauty. It's an instinct, right? Sort of like when we are children, we learn to scream when we are unhappy. And then after a while, we begin to learn that screaming is not the best way to interact with other humans. Being drawn to beauty is something that is instinctual in us because certain standards of beauty are also based in health and wellness and development, right? Symmetry, for example, is a big factor in how people around the world judge beauty, and symmetry is a part of having like good nutrition growing up and so on and so forth. Cobalt says, you don't look sick. Exactly. Which specifically, if they are struggling with an invisible disorder, like fibromyalgia, for example, they will get less respect based on their illness. If they are struggling with a mental disorder, people will often make light of it, right? Oh, yeah, she's beautiful, but she's crazy. Like as if those things go together. Who hasn't heard about the people, talking about, hot, beautiful, crazy sex, right? But, people are drawn to beauty, right? For many attractive people, the question of whether they are liked for who they are or what they look like can be a struggle, right? And although they might get a lot of compliments, many of those compliments will be gross, right? Presumptuous, objectifying. Ew. Last night on an adult site, I put up a picture of myself without clothes on. I feel it was relatively tasteful for a site like that, because I was spending some time playing with my camera and trying to connect with my body the way it is now. Having gone through a full hysterectomy in December and a double mastectomy in early February, and now in mid March, partway through the reconstruction process, right? So my breasts are partially filled. The shape that they are in is not what they are going to be. And to me, it is not natural or attractive. I have scars, right, where they went in and took out all of that breast tissue and shoved some stuff up inside of me. And of course, I still have some, I've gotten back my range of movement, but I don't have as much strength at the outer ranges of those movements. So I was spending some time last night connecting and loving and appreciating my body for where I'm at, for the scars that I have, my battle scars, as a hypnotist friend of mine suggested that I refer to them, and the idea that under all of my clothing is this sign, we are under construction to better serve you type of thing. And so as I was, focusing on that positivity, I decided to take and share a picture to show people, the process as I go through this, and to be positive. And several people did reach out to me and say that they are also struggling with similar issues. And I was able to talk with some of them, which was really nice. There was one person, well, two people actually, who very specifically on that picture focused in on saying what they would like to do with or to my breasts versus, just positive response or whatever. And I don't even necessarily consider myself on, the cutting or the bleeding edge of beauty. I feel like I can be attractive. I also feel like I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm more interesting in many ways than I am beautiful. And that's okay. The point being, though, that is when people see beauty, they often feel an entitlement to objectify, right? And that is, and when I say beauty, like it was me from here to just the top of my thighs in sort of a sultry pose on my bed. So they were looking specifically at my body, thinking this is beautiful, and then choosing to feel entitled and gross and presumptuous and objectifying. So this is something that is worth thinking through. Attractive people, beautiful people, often find that they can't just be friendly and joke with people, because that is often misunderstood as flirting, because the people they're joking with or friendly with want to believe that these attractive people are attracted to them, right? On the plus side, when they're interested, it's easier to get the point across and people are more receptive of the flirtation. On the flip side, again, sometimes when super attractive people are interested, it's really difficult to get the point across because the person that they're interested in doesn't believe that they are, quote unquote, and I hate this phrase, in their league. I used to joke that I liked to date out of my league. Like, I like to date people who are like at least 2 to 3 points hotter than I am on the 1 to 10 scale. And it was a joke. It is a joke, because I don't believe that anybody is out of my league. I believe that people connect to who they connect to, right? And again, partially because I think being interesting is more important than being beautiful, despite the fact that, of course, we all like to look at beauty in various ways. Super hot people, of course, get more compliments from random strangers, right? And while some of those might be entitled and objectifying and really focusing in on the beauty, that same super hotness can also give people the feeling like they have a right to criticize every flaw, even the smallest ones, because they feel envious of those very obvious visual advantages, right? So having good boundaries is critical for situations like these. Now, I'm not saying that people who are not traditionally beautiful do not have their own issues. And I'm not saying that every person who considers themselves beautiful or is considered beautiful by the world has these same issues. I'm not saying that you're not going to find issues like this across the board. I'm talking about some of the more common, again, pros and cons of beauty. And of course, those of you who follow me know that I believe that every single human can benefit from a good set of boundaries and how you allow people to treat you or to interact with you, right? And speaking of boundaries, did you know that I'm writing, actually right now, prepping the editing, a book about boundaries? Interesting thought. So I started out, and right now that book has about 52, 53 chapters about boundaries, deeply diving into boundaries. And I realized that I wanted to do too much. That's how I am. I like to just dig and dig and dig. So I am pulling it back in a little bit. I am editing it down. And then I am adding additional content and chapters in video, just like this, right? So then I can talk with you and I can engage with you on the topics that I feel make a good asset to the book, but don't necessarily need to be part of the book, right? Regardless, though, you can get the chapters that I've written, and as I go through and edit them down and pare them down, and of course, all of these lives that I'm going to be doing by joining my Take No Shit workshop, which you can find at Take No Shit, that's TAKENOSIT.Curiouser.Life. The title is still, Sabyasachi, the title is still working as Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck. But I'm still sort of wavering on that. I like the idea, but in the editing, I'm going to have to decide if I can go through and make that a thread that goes through the entire book. And I think I can, but I'm not absolutely positive. So if I can't, then I'll probably change the title. Yeah. Cobalt says, I'm sitting here nodding as if you could see that. You're nodding about the fact that I try to like shove too much information because I want people to know into everything. Guilty. Hi. That guy over there. Thank you. I think that this is a fun concept, and it really suits how I like to do things. I feel like maybe putting out a book that covers all of the basics, gets a little deeper, and then points to additional information that I'm able to provide in a more meaningful context, like video and audio, might be an ideal solution, right? So Take No Shit is an online at your own pace workshop. It is $47 right now. You can get it for as low as $27 because we have a like choose your own price system on there. The price will go up in April. So, if it's something that you're interested in, I highly suggest that. So let's get back to looking at a few more of the upsides and downsides of attractiveness. Even those who are, let's say, easy on the eyes can be shy and plagued with anxiety. But people are more likely to perceive that as being stuck up and vain, right? Someone might be sort of insecure or quiet or unsure, but because they're beautiful, people don't naturally apply those qualities to them and instead perceive them differently. On the other hand, people also make assumptions that drop dead knockouts are cocky or arrogant or out of their league and won't approach. So some people will approach with entitlement and criticism, right? And others won't approach because their feelings of insecurities don't allow them to. And this has actually been proven on dating sites that people who seem super attractive, like the, 8.5s, the 9s, or the 10s, actually get less messages on dating sites because people feel like, well, I don't even have a chance. And then when people do approach, they are often like overcompensating or trying to catch someone, score that someone, rather than attempting to genuinely connect. If they do attempt to genuinely connect, though, their bias is going to be that the attractive person is more trustworthy or likable, right? So there's a lot of complexity here. And while, again, there are pros and cons to all of this, I think it's important to understand the negative aspects that people who are super attractive do have to put up with. I'll tell you something. When I was 19, 20, early 20s, even my early 30s, I was a knockout. And I had no idea. None. I didn't care. I was tomboy. I didn't really wear any makeup. I never learned how to do my hair. Like none of this stuff. I'm still awful at pretty much all of that. And I'm glad in a lot of ways because it didn't really affect me in one way or another. Like I didn't learn to perceive myself as gorgeous. And so therefore, I didn't learn to take advantage of that. I feel like I could have been real trouble if I had known. And I also didn't set that as my standard for the rest of my life, right? Men, and I'm going to specifically say men, because in this case, the genitalia doesn't matter. The perception of masculinity And this includes, trans men. Men who are attractive are rated as better leaders than men who are not attractive. But the double standard is that attractive women are rated lower than less attractive women in the same positions. Oh, well, I know how she got there. Regardless of whether you think that being beautiful is a plus or a minus, studies show that being beautiful can be extremely lonely. That guy over there, is it a boundary thing to overcome the out of my league and or the so attractive I trust everything concepts? I would say that is less a boundary thing and more a thought exercise, right? So boundaries, it resides within your boundaries, in the sense that boundaries are everything that are me and what I'm willing to take responsibility, that our thoughts, what we believe, are part of us. They are part of our intellectual boundaries. And it's something I do talk about in the book, is that intellectual boundaries are what do we believe because it has been handed to us, and maybe re-examining that. And what do we believe because we have thoroughly examined it mentally and we have looked at it in practice, and our experience tells us, right? And science tells us, and whatever. So I would say that the boundary on that might be, do I believe everything that I think? And do I critically examine my thoughts, especially those that are potentially handed to me by society, by others, by culture, versus just going along? And the fact, that guy over there, that you are here and that you have been here in these lives suggests to me that you are the type of person who is interested in digging into your mind and understanding your mind and life in ways that do require some sort of introspection, right? So studies show that being beautiful can also be exceedingly lonely, because although people are drawn towards attractive people, they also tend to keep like a certain amount of distance, right? This goes back to the out of my league, especially if they don't perceive themselves as on that level, right? Well, she married me, but I'm not sure why. And like, she could leave me at any time. The relationships can be rife with insecurity, jealousy, and misunderstandings. He is way too hot for me. He's going to find somebody on his level at some point, right? As I've noticed in online dating, studies show that people with stunningly attractive photos get fewer dates. Sabyasachi says, is looking beautiful can be a form of always looking for external validation? Yes, exactly. So if you are, one of the things that psychology has seen is that young people who are taught that they are loved through their beauty, you are so beautiful, often then grow up with a very high standard of what beautiful is and a desire to maintain that beauty at all costs. right? And so they're constantly looking for that external validation, and the internal validation is not built up, which is one of the reasons that when I talk about how to give compliments, and I give you the 9 easy steps, one of the suggestions is do not compliment on a traditionally beautiful feature. Instead, even better, not to compliment on physical things that they cannot really control. Instead, compliment people on things that they've worked hard for, right? Compliment people on, I love the way that you laugh. Your smile brightens a room. I really love your sense of humor. You did a great job on that presentation. You are an amazingly kind human, right? So it's building up the parts of people that are not just visual, not obvious to the world. It also shows that you are paying attention to something other than, hey, nice tits. Not that you would be like that, just in general. So beautiful people tend to get less dates and connections off of dating sites, which is pretty much the opposite of what's expected, right? Yeah. So for those of us who don't wake up every morning looking like, I don't know, insert whatever supermodel you wish, here, it's probably just a case of, grass is always greener. I mean, it's a nice fantasy to think about what life would be like to have won the genetic lottery. It's a nice daydream, right? Not unlike thinking what life would be like to win the actual lottery. Which we all know that people who win the lottery, actually, a lot of them, a vast majority of them, end up worse off after winning the lottery financially than they were before. So imagine the types of stressors that also would come with winning the genetic lottery. That guy over there says, that's why I'm not getting many dating site hits. There you go. See? All you got to do is just be less gorgeous. Actually, that's not true. I'm going to talk about that. Like I said, I believe it's a good thing that when I was truly stunning, I didn't know it. I never realized it, right? Because I do believe I probably, in my youth, would have taken full advantage. And I would have been a less kind and less amazing person than I am today, because I always felt like I needed to be a better and more interesting human to make up for, I don't necessarily think I saw flaws, although I've always, had a larger butt, and that has been a source of consternation. But I've always felt that my mind and my personality is far more critical than my looks. And I still do, for what it's worth. But I digress. No matter our age or body preference, looks are but a single factor in a complex balance of attraction alongside others like sense of humor, core beliefs, personality, and more. So let's talk now about why I personally believe that being interesting is far more important to being lucky in love than being beautiful is. I'm going to start with the first point. Attraction is actually more about feelings. So physical attractiveness might matter in the thumbing through profile cards on Tinder and who do you stop and like, woo, looky there. But once you actually talk to someone and start the process of connecting, the importance of appearance diminishes rapidly for most people. And let me qualify that. The importance of that initial traditional beauty appearance diminishes rapidly for most people. So after my marriage ended, I spent a year alone. Like, I left my house to do some work stuff. I left my house to do chores. I left my house to walk my dogs and get outside. But I spent the year pretty much alone. I needed that time for myself to heal, to understand me better, and to figure out my next steps. And in the following year, which was 2007-ish, which those mid 2000s were the heyday, right, of online dating, Yahoo, Match, whatever. I went on 127 first dates. I literally went out with anyone who asked me unless they seriously creeped me out, which honestly was a lot less common in those days. People were just feeling out their way online, and they were generally trying to be good about it. I went on dinner dates, lunch dates, mini golf dates, exotic snake dates, and of course, a ton of coffee dates. And the people I wanted to see again, and did see again, were not the most attractive according to their photos. In fact, nearly every one of them surprised me. Like, it was like, oh, hey, I'm going out with people. I'll go out with this person. They were just guys and a few other genders. None of them ultimately became long-term because someone online wooed me and won my heart for the next 4.5 years. But I learned a lot about attraction in myself and in others, and made some fun friends that I still know. In fact, I had a strange dream about one of them last night popping back up in my life. He does that every 4 or 5 years, so we'll see if it's coming up. But so Viren Swamy is a researcher at the University of Westminster in London, and he and his colleagues did a study where they showed a couple of thousand young men in London pictures of young women accompanied by brief personality vignettes, descriptions, right? And the guys rated each image and then indicated the largest and smallest female figures they found appealing, effectively producing a range of acceptable attractiveness, right, for themselves. Men who looked at the images while reading positive personality briefs had wider ranges, expanded their ranges, while men who read negative bios shrunk theirs. Oh, this is reported in the Journal of Social Psychology. The greatest range change occurred with heavier women. Hello? Who were judged more physically attractive when paired with an appealing character trait like openness or emotional stability? Aha! Sabyasachi says, did you ever have any catfish moments during your dating experience? Oh, yes. Not as much in, like I said, the early to mid 2000s, because again, this was really just getting started. However, the man I did end up dating and living with for 4.5 years was super catfished by another person online. Really, really crazy. This person, and I mean like unbelievable. This person was a frustrated housewife in California who presented as several different people online, but the most common was a young mother who was battling cancer and who shared photos of herself and her daughter. Turns out that it was actually her younger sister and the girl that she babysat that were the pictures, which is why she had access to so many of them. And she created an online life with online, families and dynamics, and had people cheering for her as she was going through cancer, and also had several other identities that she used to, boost her own main profile popularity. So yeah, definitely catfish moments. Sure. I've had more maybe after 2010. And then there's also the idea, not so much the catfishing, but the kitten fishing, which is actually far more common, which is when people post pictures of themselves, but when they were younger, more attractive, super filtered, slimmer, in better shape or whatever. So when you meet them, you're like, have you just aged 15 years or what? Right? So kitten fishing is actually far more common, I've found recently. So Northwestern University psychologists Paul Eastwick and Eli Finkel recently arranged a speed dating event for 163 university guys and gals and had them indicate beforehand what they wanted in a mate: attractiveness, earning potential, personality qualities, etc. The men, no surprise, overwhelmingly said they were focused on looks before going into things. But when they got to the tables, something changed. Eastwick and Finkel discovered that pre-event ideals failed to predict a person's true romantic interests. So that's the dudes and the dude likes, for those of any gender who tend towards more traditionally masculine traits and personality. What about the ladies and the lady likes? Well, a list of top 10 qualities women, all women, look for in men, compiled from a series of studies, are, in order: chemistry, vulnerability, stability, equality, awareness, emotional presence, curiosity about her and her life. Curiouser people are attractive. Protectiveness, acceptance, and assertiveness. Okay. Schnesnard Dowden I hope I got that right. Let me know if I pronounced it correctly. Schnesnard. I do try to pronounce names correctly, so please let me know. Schnesnard. Beauty fades. It does. Or looking at it from the standpoint of what you find beautiful. I turned 50 this year. My partner finds me more beautiful than he found me 10 years ago. Our standards of beauty change as well. So I also look more towards mature faces and interest than I do towards youth and, super gorgeous beauty. So Schnestard says, and passion. I do not feel like passion fades. I feel like that is an idea that if you have that belief, if that's what you meant, because you just said and passion, I feel like that is an idea that if you have that in your head, you might want to re-examine that, because passion does not have to fade. In fact, it can grow. I have more passion now for my partner than I did 10 years ago. And it is a deep passion. Like, sometimes I just can't even comprehend how I can feel that way. So, Sabyasachi, congratulations, Miss Nookie. Thank you. I've been told that, this whole genetic thing and the surgeries I'm going through, it's pretty shocking that I made it this far. My mother passed away at 42 of aggressive breast cancer. So it's surprising that, I've gotten to where I am as healthy as I am. So I'm glad I'm going through all of this. Oh, women look for passionate men is what I meant. Absolutely. I think that comes partially with being curiouser, right? Passionate about the world. Nobody wants a boring partner. Ding, right? A friend of mine, David Shade, I look at him as a bit of a mentor, really, says, first, a woman needs to feel appreciated for the unique individual that she is. She needs to feel special, unlike any other woman. And she needs to know that her man supports her in her endeavors. Second, she needs to feel that deep emotional intimacy and connection. She needs to have that with her man. It's a connection she shares only with him. Third, she needs to feel like a woman. She needs to feel beautiful, sexy, and feminine. She needs to enjoy all those things that come with being a woman. Finally, she needs hot, passionate sex. There you go, Schneznard. She needs to be seduced, enticed, teased, and satisfied over and over again. She needs to experience new things in new ways, including fantasies and roles. It makes her feel desired, affirmed, and alive. Now, I wish that I could have shared that with you in David's voice, because he has an absolutely lovely voice. And I'd like to point out, I do see the issues with gendering here. David focuses primarily on working with men, cis men mostly, to uncover or recover their dominant sexual selves, and works primarily with men who are heterosexually focused. So he's speaking directly from his perspective. And of course, this doesn't apply perfectly to every woman on the planet, and it will apply to many others of any gender. Now, in fact, I just shared something recently with my partner that he loved from a report I was reading. One striking finding, to borrow the report's own word, was a very strong connection between a man's relationship satisfaction and his frequency of physical intimacy. Not physical intimacy as in sex, but physical intimacy as in kissing, cuddling, and overall general, not necessarily sexual caressing. The odds of a man being happy in his relationship increase by a factor of 3 if he snuggled up regularly. Human touch. Now, I've talked about touch starvation before, but this again, I believe, applies to many humans, most humans of all genders. This finally bit that David said, finally, she needs hot, passionate sex, right? She needs to be seduced, enticed, teased, and satisfied over and over again. She needs to experience new things in new ways, including fantasies and roles. It makes her feel desired, affirmed, and alive. Seems to me to be gender universal for those who value sexual and romantic intimacy versus those who are asexual or aromantic, for whom it seems that the beauty versus interest debate would not even really be a thing, right, in most cases. Sabyasachi says sensual feeling. Absolutely. Absolutely. So where is the physical attraction in all of this? Well, let's look at what women overall, again, in general, this is based on reports of a conglomerate of women. It's not necessarily applying to very specific women. What women want from the physical side of things. Well, most women do like taller men, but that's generally taller than them, not tall. And there are exceptions to that, of course. They do like wider shoulders, but even overall more than narrower. That's also subjective. Women like butts. A nice peach is a lovely thing on a man. And all of this could absolutely add up to the action hero or male model stereotype. Of course it could. But what it really means to most women is the dad bod. Seriously. Why could women possibly prefer a man with a dad bod over a gym beefcake? Cuddliness and a lack of vanity are common reasons. Cuddliness, a lack of vanity. Also, it brings people back into our league, right? He's got a few extra pounds. I can totally relate. Thing is, dad bods are still strong and capable. They don't make their looks the most important thing above other like life priorities like family or kids or whatever. It's healthy overall, even with a few extra. And it's considered sexy even because that shape is associated with having a sense of humor, a down-to-earth mentality, a confidence, and a swagger. And frankly, to many women, it's just so genuine. It's real, it's realistic. It's not as intimidating for those who have their own insecurities as Greek gods' body look-alike might be. Right? Overall, I'm not saying that physical attractiveness is not important. It tends, though, to be more of a focus for that instantaneous, like, wow, that picture is hot. More of a focus for people prowling for a fling than those looking for a steady mate or partner. For those looking for more than a one-night stand, situationship, or friends with benefits deal, the interest is going to win out. And science shows that. But of course, let's not forget that attraction matters. David said she needs to feel beautiful, sexy, and feminine. Most people, most humans want to feel attractive, sexy, and validated physically to their partner. Luckily, being interesting, and let me add, being interested, being curiouser about somebody actually makes you more interesting to them. Being interesting attracts people. So bear with me, take a moment, pause, and think on your past experiences for just a moment. I'm pretty sure every one of us who has dated someone totally hot in the past. And I'm also pretty sure that most of us have learned that hot is not enough over time. It takes more than that. What was irresistible when we met became tawdry and only surface deep when we'd spent some time and discovered that we just didn't find them that interesting. And our personality is key there, right? What we love, what we don't love, how we speak, what makes us giggle, snort. The fact that we can't get up in the morning without 30 snoozes, or the way that we snuggle pounce on a Saturday morning before breakfast, all of these things add up. And when those are a good fit, we are both attractive and attracted. Do you have any questions about what we've covered today? Pop them into the chat if you're with me live, or into the comments if you're watching the replay. When it comes to dating and love, people often say, just be yourself, right? Just be authentic. The problem with that is that a lot of us suck as humans. In people, there is no magical step-by-step fuckity-fuck process. Humans are not combination locks to be opened with a series of moves. And so sometimes we not so good at being humans miss out on the fuckity-fuck, or whatever goodness of humanity. Hugs, smiles, cuddling, deep love, satisfying orgasms, whatever. Add to the confusion that no one is exactly the same human in every situation. Some people bring more laughter bubbling out of me than others. Some make me feel girlish and pretty. Some open the door for my beast. Some make me smile every damn time I see them. And so on. It gets complex. Schnesnard says, not being yourself is exhausting. Absolutely it is, which again is one of the things that I really talk about in my boundaries workshop, is how authenticity, I titled the book Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck, because I believe that having good boundaries and being able to present your authentic self to the world is sexy. However, it's important, I think, to also understand who we are authentically and how we have been shaped and beat down and traumatized and harmed throughout our lives, the beliefs that are given to us by society, by our cultures, and how we often are not nice to others or are not good people or the best people we could be in relationships and out of them, because of those things, right? My personality is self-designed. I'm not who I was when I left my husband more than 15 years ago now. In fact, I'm almost the opposite in a lot of ways. Intentionally, I can quite confidently say I sucked as people then, and my life was full of what I did not want interpersonally. So I designed myself to be a better human to get more of what I want. In doing so, I learned a lot of lessons about who to be, what to say, and how to think that affects the world and the people around me to engage with me in more positive ways. I am no less authentic as a result, because each and every belief I have examined and chosen for myself as this is important to me. I'm more authentic because every single part of me is mine and not handed to me, not an assumption I'm making. I am far, far more interesting, or at least I am far more able to show how interesting I am in ways that others can understand it. I mean, even over 15 years ago, I had quit high school, taken off hitchhiking, joined the carnival, trained to be a sous chef, started a business, teaching fashion design and sewing. But now I feel like I am able to communicate how interesting I am in ways that others can understand it, and how interested in them I am, how curious I am about them and about the world. Over the years, I had to try behaviors and thoughts out inauthentically, like trying them on like masks or costumes, to learn how they worked and to decide whether or not to make them part of the new me. But they should love me for who I am. Yes, that's true. If who you are is like who I was, or worse, though, perhaps a bit of spit polishing might be in order for you too. I mean, just like losing or gaining weight or cutting or coloring my hair, I've changed. I'm still exactly me, just a different me. A me I wanted to be. I've changed who I am and how I see the world far more than I've changed others, I think. Or maybe not. The new me took the time to understand what about me could inspire others to give and get far better fuckity fuck, representing all the good stuff of connecting with people in the ways they need me, to connect with them, and to find those qualities in myself to make them authentic. So now I can just be myself, or they can love me for who I am. Sabyasachi says, and you've done a fantastic job in communicating, Miss Nookie. Thank you. So thank you to every one of you who joined me today. If you love this discussion, please like and share it with others who would enjoy it. And don't forget to follow or subscribe wherever you're finding me so you don't miss out on upcoming lives. And speaking of upcoming lives, so at noon today, I'll be running an episode of the Dating Kinky Book Club. Who Are You? The Basics. Thursday at 2 p.m., I start a double header on boundaries. 2 p.m. is trust earned or is it given? And then at 3 p.m., the normally private event that we usually do for our Take No Shit workshop will be public this time because I'm bringing in a special guest to talk with everyone about building better boundaries with anxiety, especially rejection sensitive anxiety. And I'm super excited about that. I feel it's an important enough topic that I wanted to give people the chance to interact with that publicly before I take that down and put it into the private library. On Friday, I'll be talking about non-monogamy. Do you ask for permission to have relationships with others? And then coming up on Monday, Lucky in Love, a relationship is 50-50. Bullshit. On Tuesday, I'll be going live with One Badass Bitch or whatever. And that's another building better boundaries. So I hope that you will join me for some or all of those.